All right.
It's that jumpin', yeah. It's that jumpin', start like 23. It's that jumpin', 2-4 like Kobe. It's that jumpin', shoot my shot, dance beat. It's that jumpin', right around swinging my trees. It's that jumpin', start like 23. It's that jumpin', 2-4 like Kobe. It's that jumpin', shoot my shot, dance beat. It's that jumpin', right around swinging my trees. I be ballin' in music like Kobe. I'm the greatest to ever do it, they don't know it.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Turtles Take right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. Same show, same Tarbill, same turtle, new network. So thanks for joining us tonight. We got a big guest joining us here at 7:20 p.m. Mr. Ryan Badgley from Bears Barroom will be joining us to chalk it up about all things Bears, and we'll talk a little bit of Bulls with Badge too, because we know that he's a huge Bulls fan, as we both are here at Turtles Take. And what a better time than now to be able to talk about the Bulls when the Bulls are currently sitting first in the conference, 2 games ahead of the Brooklyn Nets. So the Bulls are putting in work right now. I mean, we all anticipated this Bulls team would be better moving into this year with the moves that they made, the moves that my guy Turtle called during the offseason for that matter. But with that being said, I didn't think the Bulls would be first. Vince, did you think the Bulls would be in first place?
No, I mean, I don't think I thought they'd be first. I thought they would be, the top 4, 8 make the playoffs. You figure it'll be top 4 with the moves they made. Obviously DeMar DeRozan has played way better than anybody thought he would. Especially they go out, they make these signings, and then Patrick Williams gets hurt and you hear he's out for the year. And you're like, oh, great, now we got to deal with that. And really, this team is just taking everything in stride without really being fazed by anything. I mean, they went through losing Patrick Williams. Then they lost Zach LaVine due to COVID. And then they basically lost the entire team to COVID.
And have persevered through all of it. I mean,
between guys coming in for 10-day contracts and, just guys being there ready to go. They just, we heard the story about DeMar DeRozan. He shot poorly from the free throw line and stayed after the game. They won. He stayed after the game and he shot 250 free throws. That's crazy. The shit you hear about from teams that win championships.
Right. It's crazy. But that work ethic, as you said, is what creates teams that are championship caliber. I mean, you look at this Bulls team, and other than the Derrick Rose playoff run team that the Bulls have had, it's been a long time since the Bulls have been competitive and in the top of the conference for at least even in this portion of the season. I know it's still early. Basketball's a long season, but the Bulls have put up a good string of games, and we're about a third of the way through the season. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
With that being said, I think the hype is real. Everybody thought, at the beginning of the season that, they'd beat the bad teams and they'd struggle against the playoff contenders. Well, it's kind of been the opposite. They've beat almost everyone they've played. They've only lost 11 games, I believe, on the season. So
yeah, especially I think the turning point of the season when you really had to take notice was when they beat the Nets for the second time, and they went 2-0 against the Nets.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing. When we bring up the Nets, I always kind of want to give an update out there to the fans on the Kyrie Irving situation. So is Kyrie allowed to play at home games now, Vince?
No, he's not. So Kyrie did not get vaccinated, so he does not play at home. That's why he debuted on the road in Indiana, because they don't have the the COVID vaccination rule to be at the stadium.
Okay.
So, I believe it's LA, New York, and I forget where else, but basically anywhere that you have to be vaccinated to be in the building, he's not eligible to play.
Is that the case in Chicago now with the new rules that are being instituted?
So I know they said you had to show for restaurants and stuff like that for Cook County. I don't know if that includes the United Center.
I would be interested to find out.
I know I'm going somewhere in the end of the month. I'm actually going to see Royal Rumble in St. Louis, and they are that way. You have to show your vaccination card or a negative test to be allowed entrance.
Okay. Yeah, and as the COVID situation continues to evolve around the world, different states choose to handle it differently. We've seen it. Illinois is like one of 5 states that are still masked up at this point. So,
yeah, we went to the Dells last weekend, and it was like we got out of the car, and I was like, "Oh man, my mask!" And then we went inside, nobody was wearing one. I was like, "Oh, all right, cool." And then, of course, I got back Sunday night, and I ran to the gas station. I didn't bring it in. They were like, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry."
Right. Now I'm back on the Illinois side. Our guy Angelo said in the chat, January 21st, he's going to the Bulls-Bucks game in Milwaukee, and you need to show proof or a negative test. It's starting to be that way everywhere. We just got a comment in the chat from IMSKOKS. Yes, the UC requires a negative test or vax card for entrance, but not sure if it includes opposing teams. Okay, well, from that perspective, I guess I was more curious as to if it would keep a guy like Kyrie from playing in the United Center. So I guess long haul, we got the answer we were looking for there, because I would surely take Kyrie Irving being out playing against the Bulls at the United Center. I mean, yes and no. You want to be able to see your team beat those teams full strength, but any given night you play to the strengths that are in front of you, and if that happens to be a player's out of the game because of his or her vaccination choice, which is totally their choice.
Yeah.
So be it, but you play to the strengths that you have. And if that's one of them any given night, you play to what you're given. So, but back to the Bulls, man, I think the Bulls have been phenomenal over this first stretch of 30 plus games. And I don't see them slowing down. Like you said, they beat the Nets twice. That was kind of the turning point to make us realize that, hey, this team's legit. The Bulls are not going anywhere. They're going to be a contender this year. But then
I was just going to say really quick, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I think not enough credit really has gone to Billy Donovan. He came into a situation where it was everybody assumed the worst. Like, great, we got a retread coach. We just got rid of this piece of crap coach we had.
Right.
Now we got this guy, AK, that supposedly is supposed to help build it like he did the Nuggets, blah, blah, blah. And, I mean, everything is – it reminds me of when the Cubs were good before they were supposed to be, that they were – they competed a year early, and then everybody was like, oh, shit, like we really are good. And I just feel like it's kind of the same thing. Like everyone's like, Lonzo Ball, he's okay. And then, he comes out and he's stealing with his steals and passes and shooting, a high 3-point percentage. I don't know if you saw the stat that came out a few weeks ago, but the Bulls have the lowest amount of threes taken in the NBA, but the highest percentage of makes.
Yeah, I did see that. And that's what basketball fundamentally is all about, right? Take good shots, take open shots, do not force it. I mean, and the Bulls are doing that to an extravagant number. I mean, I believe their mid-range shots are near highest in the league right now as well.
Yeah, that's thanks to Mr. Mid-Range, DeMar DeRozan.
Hey, DeMar DeRozan, man, nobody, as you said, nobody thought that he was going to play at the caliber that he is playing.
Right.
At all. I mean, I was hoping that he would come out and play like he did early in his career with San Antonio, but there was always a little bit of doubt and skepticism from me, and we talked about it on air before they even made the acquisition. I was skeptical. I wasn't sure that he was the right fit for Chicago. I will eat my words on that one because DeMar DeRozan has absolutely resurged in his career since he's joined the Chicago Bulls.
And you know what? I don't think really anybody who, including yourself, anybody who thought that it wasn't going to work with DeMar DeRozan, I don't necessarily think that they, were wrong or this or that. DeMar DeRozan has taken upon himself to change his game and to adapt to whatever he needs to be on that. I always talk about Chris Paul. Everyone looks at Chris Paul and they're like, oh, he's not really a scorer, but he gets hella assists. And then you look at one night and he'll have 5 assists, but he'll have 30 points. And the next night he'll have 5 points and 20 assists. Like, he just adapts to whatever the team needs him that night. And DeMar has really done the same thing, especially when pairing with Zach, who this team was Zach's before DeRozan got here. And it really could have been that awkward two alpha males going at it like, no, I'm going to dominate the ball. No, I'm going to dominate the ball to my team. It runs through me. And they both have done a very good job at playing off of each other and really making both play better.
Yeah, I think I saw something on Twitter. It was the game that DeMar had the first buzzer beater of the 2 night in a row buzzer beater fiasco that he had there, which, man, that first shot, the way he stepped into it and
that like 1-footed, like,
yeah, that just shows you the kind of athlete he is. But something had broke on Twitter that DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine were talking on the sidelines, and neither one of them wanted to take the last shot because they wanted to give it to the other. Not that they didn't want to take the last shot, but Zach said, no, let DeMar do it. And DeMar said, no, let Zach do it. And then,
luckily for us and us Bulls fans, DeMar took both shots.
Yeah, I would say so. I would rather, at this point in the season, no scrub to Zach LaVine, but at this point in the season, I would rather have DeMar DeRozan taking that clutch time shot.
Yeah, I mean, especially Zach really hasn't had a good track record at last second, late in the game shots. He sometimes forces things when he doesn't need to. But, if you look at the beginning of the year, they had the same situation, and DeMar, he did that. He forced it. He went baseline. I believe it was against the Knicks. He went baseline and he had the jumper and passed on it, dribbled out of it, and then forced a air ball that cost them a shot at the game when they had made a big comeback. And, you just show from where they were at the beginning of the year to now, it's like they just, like we said, they just don't miss a beat. They just keep clicking along.
Yeah, I mean, you look at where this team's at now compared to where they were last year, it's complete night and day. I mean, last year we were talking about Thaddeus Young shooting airball threes to try to win the game. And now we're talking about a guy like DeMar DeRozan having back-to-back buzzer beater nights. And don't get me wrong, if the defense was trued up to the level it needs to be, you wouldn't be in that situation where you got to make buzzer beaters to win a game that you've scored 110 plus points in. But at the end of the day, it's today's NBA. It's just so offensive minded, and no matter whether you have the best defenders in the league, you could still get 110 plus scored on you any given night easily.
Yeah, I think the big part is neither one of them, Zach or DeMar, neither one have to play with the ball in their hand. They can move around the court, and they don't have to use the energy bringing the ball up court and taking that physical beating coming up the court the whole time. They don't have to do any of that because you got a guy like Lonzo Ball who has played phenomenally in a role that really doesn't get a whole lot of credit. But, he's the pass first, defensive first, score only when the team needs me to type role. He's really flourished in it. And I think he's really playing the best basketball of his career.
I would agree. And it's worked out well. As you said, going back to Billy Donovan, everybody was kind of skeptical when he was brought on. And I do understand the early criticisms or the early concerns, not so much criticism, but at the end of the day, Billy Donovan's had a resurgence as a coach here in Chicago. AK has done everything in his power to build the correct pieces in this lineup, and I think it's going to be a bright, sustainable future for the Bulls. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they're going to play at this high of a level for years to come. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but I think overall I'm much happier, and the average Bulls fan is obviously much happier with where this squad is at now versus 18, 24 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's night and day where they are. I think before everybody, even myself and the biggest supporters of AK and Billy Donovan and his Bulls team, and thought that they could be something special this year. Thought they could be something special this year, like 4th seed, 5th seed.
Right, and that's where a lot of us and a lot of analysts included were putting the Bulls was right around the 4th, 5th, 6th seed. And nobody, if anyone at the beginning of the season would have said the Bulls were in first place, even I would have scoffed and been like, no, they're probably a 4 seed if everything goes right. But they've definitely defied the odds, man. I mean, they've done well so far, and I think that it's going to be an exciting rest of the season. Now that the Chicago Bears are completely done and irrelevant for the next few months, I'm all in on Bulls basketball and hockey, man. It's hard to watch the Hawks right now, so
It most definitely is hard to watch the Hawks right now.
I'll just be a Bulls fan here until the Hawks.
Yeah, the Bulls got my full attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. You see the Thanos meme on Facebook when the season started. Oh, the Bulls are back. What did it cost? The Bears. And it's like, that's as crazy as it sounds, man. I mean, that's really where we're at right now, where the Bulls and the Bears both, although two different sports, were kind of stuck in that cycle of mediocrity for so long with Gar Pax. I mean, it was just time for a change for the Bulls. They did exactly what they needed to do, in my opinion, and spent the money on the correct positions, as well as, spending the money to bring AK and Coach Donovan in. And it's been extremely successful to that end. It's been great to be a Bulls fan so far, and I'm fortunate that we're finally getting to see some good basketball in Chicago. It's been a long time, man.
It is definitely a long time coming.
I'm not old enough to remember the first three-peat of the Bulls, and I was barely able to remember watching the second. So with that being said, it's nice that we've got some good basketball here in Chicago again. And
absolutely. And, as we get closer to the deadline here, there's some rumors of them making a move. If they pull off one of these moves, it could really solidify them as a championship contender.
And, to follow up with that, I do have a question regarding one of our young franchise pieces. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and bring our guy Ryan Badgley in, because I know Badge is going to have an opinion on this as well.
Oh, perfect timing. Oh,
what's up, fellas?
What's up, Badge? How we doing tonight,
man? What's going on?
What's up, brother?
Man, just chilling, dude. Watching a little college hoops for now. And then I'll, tune into the Bulls here in a little bit. But, just excited to be on with you guys tonight, man.
Man, I always love we come on and we got the Peyton and Ditka jerseys right there.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, dude. Yeah. I got a pretty nice little setup. Those aren't autographed, unfortunately. I got and obviously the Peyton one never will be. Still a slight chance for Ditka, but I got some autographed stuff too. I just keep it on a different wall.
Right on. Well, thanks for joining us, Badge. We do appreciate you jumping on with us tonight. The question that I was going to present Turtle with, and I'll get your feedback on this first, the possibility of us trading away Patrick Williams. Where are you at with that? Do you think for the right player it makes sense, or do you like what this young guy has brought to the team so far and you want to see what he can do to develop when healthy again?
I like P. Will. I really do. But there's a guy that's going to take the floor tonight for the Detroit Pistons that I like a little bit better. And
hell yeah, that's the guy right there.
Played for my Syracuse Orangemen, man. Freaking Jeremy Grant.
Hell yeah.
This is a kid. I mean, I don't even need to speak about the lineage, with Horace being his uncle and everything. But, this is a kid that I watched at Syracuse really become a really, really good basketball player. And now seeing, the progression he's made coming into the pro game, he's somebody who I think could be a phenomenal addition to this team, but I hate to lose what Patrick Williams could be to this team as well. That's the toss up. It's we haven't really got to see him a ton yet. Obviously he played a little in the beginning of the season, but he wasn't really getting a ton of minutes. And then boom, the wrist happens. Now he's got the cast off. Man, how long is it going to take for him to come back from the wrist? I think is a big thing. If it's something where he shows up right at playoff time, okay, you know what? Fine. Let's hang on to him because now you're bringing that extra body right there, healthy. His legs will be fresh. A lot of the stuff that these other guys aren't going to have. But man, that's such a tough injury. That's such a tough injury. To think that he can come back from that. But Jeremy Grant's a guy I could see making a move there. But what else would you have to give up? Aside from, let's say, if it's straight up Grant for P. Will, I don't know that there's as much of a difference. I think Jeremy Grant gets a little bit more of an opportunity with the ball in his hands. He's not going to get that here. Obviously with DeMar, Zach, Vooch, the offense is going to go through those three guys. So the opportunities Grant's getting now, he's probably not going to get here. So maybe P. Will is the better fit to stay long term. He's young, I don't want to give up on him yet,
Well, and that's kind of where my thoughts are exactly, is the guy's young. He's somewhat unproven to this point. We saw flashes early on, but it's one of those situations where if you move on from a guy now, you cash in those chips to try to make a run at the championship. And he has a great career with 5-10 plus years of sustained success at a high level in the NBA. We may be, as Bulls fans, kicking ourselves in the back, but it's always hindsight when it comes to picks like that. And I do understand that, the mentality here is the Bulls are almost just one piece away from moving to that upper tier. They're first in the conference right now, which is something that none of us thought they would be in this position at the beginning of the season.
Right. Look, Tarbill, speaking on behalf of Cub fans, you can answer on behalf of Cub fans. Are you kicking yourself in the ass that the Cubs traded Aroldis Chapman? Traded for Aroldis Chapman and then lost him the next year?
Absolutely.
No. So the Cubs went out and got Aroldis Chapman. They had him a year, and he went back to the Yankees. You lost Gleyber Torres. A lot of Cub fans are like, "Oh, what a shitty trade that was. We only had him for a year, and we lost Gleyber Torres." Oh, by the way, you got a World Series for it. If you trade Patrick Williams and you get Jeremy Grant and say he's here 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, and you win a championship, isn't that all that matters? Do you really care that Patrick Williams goes and plays in Detroit at a high level?
No, I understand what you're saying, Vince.
And the other thing with Patrick Williams, I'm a huge Patrick Williams fan. I love what he brings to the court. I love what he brings defensively. He's got a mid-range that fits the Bulls game. I'd like to see him be a little more aggressive with it. He's a little passive. Yep. And what scares me is being behind Lonzo, DeMar, Zach, Vooch, obviously in no order, but those four, I don't see him asserting himself into those five to take his shots. So, right away, everybody wants to say, well, he's Kawhi 2.0. Okay, well, that's some pretty high expectations. Your more realistic expectation is you hope and pray that Patrick Williams turns into Jeremy Grant. Well, you could get Jeremy Grant right now for Patrick Williams.
It's true.
Yeah,
I see my man Skoke said in the chat that Grant is inactive tonight. I didn't even realize he was hurt.
Maybe he's not. Maybe there's a pending move. Maybe they're afraid to play him.
Yeah.
That could always be a possibility. It's one of those things that I do understand your argument, Vince, and very valid point with.
I'll tell you what, honestly, and not to cut you off, but honestly, I'm surprised the Lakers haven't traded for him. So, word came out a couple weeks ago that it would take THT, a first-round pick, and another role player. I mean, I would have had to have been all over that. I know they like Horton Tucker, but I would have had to make that move if I was the Lakers and go get Jeremy Grant right away. But maybe
I saw
maybe it was the injury that scared him.
You see, the thing about the Lakers is you got to be friends with LeBron and you got to be 33 or over.
Okay. Don't go on one of your LeBron tangents. Don't go on one of your LeBron tangents.
You got to be my age to be on the Lakers roster. If you're not 42 or older, forget about it.
Or made of glass.
Yeah, right.
No, but in all seriousness, Vince, I do understand what you're saying there with the win now mentality. We as Cubs fans experienced it like no other when we won the World Series. And as I'm sure both of you guys will always remember exactly where you were at when the Cubs won the World Series.
Well, I remember bits and pieces of where I was at.
I worked night shift at the time, so I got off work and I was 5 minutes away from my wife's work when I heard it on the radio, and I pulled over because I couldn't keep driving. I was so excited.
It's a weird thing to hear on the radio and to be, so excited about. But I'll be honest, the probably the closest thing I can compare that to the year the Bears went to the Super Bowl and Devin Hester returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. I was actually in the car listening to it on the radio, going to the bar I was going to for the Super Bowl party, and I don't remember why, but whatever happened, I was running late, and it's just a kickoff. And then he takes it back to the house. I'm like, you got to be shitting me.
Oh, man.
I remember watching
the only thing worth seeing in the whole game I missed.
Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy, man. I can think back. I mean, I can think back to, all right, so I'm a Yankee fan, sorry, being a New Yorker.
I don't mind the Yankees.
But 09, was, great. Seeing those guys get one more. The Hester return for me is a phenomenal highlight. And then, I think back to those 90s Bulls teams, man. And there's so many moments you can pick, even before they made it to the championship seasons. There's moments you can pick, from those late 80s, games that you're like, holy shit, man, I'll never forget that. The shot on Elo, and then you go to 98 and, Russell on Jordan and, he just brushes him off, boom, jumper, you can't forget those things. But it's something that in keeping it to the Bulls here, you think of those things and you think about how, man, it's been 20 years since the Bulls, really had a shot at an NBA championship. And look how fast a new regime comes in and turns things around because you found the right pieces.
Absolutely.
You found cohesion, and, DeMar, he's got all these Kobe similarities, he's got the mid-range game, it's just watching him on the court, you see similarities there, but that mental part of it too, the guy goes 7 for 11 from the line last week, and because he missed 2 late free throws and 2 free throws early in the game, he shoots 250 as they're taking the court off the floor to put the ice rink down.
Right. We were talking about that earlier.
Doing that shit. Fuck LeBron. No. LeBron ain't doing that.
Right.
That's how championship teams are built. That's championship mentality right there. And to segue a little bit, before we start talking some Bears badge, I do have to know, was it strictly Michael Jordan that made you become a Bulls fan? Because you being from the New York area,
Yep.
And then to elaborate on that, I guess, and switch gears, did you become a Bears fan because of Sweetness?
So I actually became a Bears fan. Probably close in time to becoming a Bulls fan. My dad, I had a great uncle who worked at Carson Perry Scott. He was an executive, and he was invited to a Bears training camp practice in 1982, 83. was introduced to Mike Singletary. Mike Singletary gave my great uncle this jersey. My great uncle didn't even want to go to the event. It was like a have to, because,
Okay.
hey, we're trying to build a relationship here with the Bears.
Right.
You have to
Right.
do this. So he sends a jersey to my dad because he was a football fan, but my dad was a Giants fan. So here you go. So I
Okay.
found out who Singletary was. And I mean, once you see who Walter Payton is, I mean, you forget about it,
Right.
and then the
absolutely.
additions just kept coming. And, unfortunately, that's the team I chose to stick with. And I mean, really, aside from 2006, there really hasn't been much to be excited about since that Super Bowl in 1985.
No, and that's very interesting. I do appreciate you sharing that little bit of your story with us. It's like I always say, me just being right around 30, I've literally seen, 20 plus quarterbacks in the same amount of time that Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers have been the two quarterbacks for the Green Bay Packers. And it's just a head scratching situation. How can one organization be so bad at evaluating talent at specifically the quarterback position as well as other positions for so long? It just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, it's not even the positional horridness. It's not even it's from for crying
Top
out
bottom.
loud. It's the whole organization. I mean, I saw somebody, I can't remember if I heard it or I saw somebody tweet it, but somebody had a really good point. And they said that, in 1981, 82, or 80, whatever year it was when Ditka was hired, Ditka was different than anything the Bears had ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he went against everything they did. And look what happened. Things changed. They turned things around. Things started to do things. The team started to get better. Boom. They win a Super Bowl. Excuse me. He was still even able to, salvage some of a defense, even though Buddy Ryan was gone. The defense still was a very good defense.
Oh, absolutely.
But since then, there's been nobody that had I've got giant fucking balls and I'm in charge here. Yeah, I'm the head coach, but let me tell you, this is how this is going to go. If you're not doing the things that I want you to do, you're not going to be here. And I really believe, guys, that this is something they cannot miss this time, because if they miss this time, I don't even know, for some people. I've followed this team, more so as an adult, than when I was a young teenager, because the Bulls were so good then. I was, following that. But I just don't know how much. I've never been so down in my life during a football season as I was this past season. And guys, this was, we had 6 wins? This isn't even one of the worst seasons in I couldn't.
So I got a question before we go any further.
Go ahead.
Why were you so disappointed?
Because I knew this is what was going to happen.
Well, then why were you disappointed if you knew this is what was going to happen?
Because I'm that gullible.
Because he's a passionate fan.
So we talked about this last week. We had Steve Edwards on last week.
Yeah.
And we talked to him, and I said, and this was before when we were doing the hibernation shows too. I feel like we did this to ourselves. All the fans who are upset only have themselves to blame. The team wasn't good when the season started. Nobody thought this team was going to compete for a playoff spot. And then when they didn't compete for a playoff spot, it was like, well, what the hell? Why aren't you competing for the playoffs? Why aren't you beating the good teams? They had injuries, they had COVID, and they were bad to begin with. Yeah. Then you factor in the bad coaching, the bad game planning, and poor discipline. They're lucky they won as many games as they did.
Yeah. I think the thing for me was normally this was something I looked forward to. It was, I would get up Sunday morning because we do our show every Sunday, live pregame show. And then, boom, it's game time. Whether they're playing at 1, 4, Sunday night, Monday night, whatever. And it just got to the point where I was like, I don't know if I can watch without, having, a fifth of vodka right next to me. Because, I mean, I didn't know, the depths that it could go. I mean,
every time you thought it hit bottom, it just kept going.
Yeah. I mean, I said last night, we did a show last night, and I said on the show last night, I was sitting here, I had a beer, and I said, we didn't think it could get worse after last year's press conference and the season. And then George pops on the camera and hands me a fucking beer. And goes, oh, hang on just a second. And it fucking got worse.
Absolutely. I mean, that was yesterday for me. I was talking with Angelo last night on his pop-up sport court. It was like, I was so happy to see the tweets come out early in the morning, right? Ryan Pace is gone. Matt Nagy's gone. There's excitement. Okay, they're finally going to do the right thing. They're going to bring in a president of football ops. I had a meeting at 1 o'clock, so I wasn't able to listen to the presser live. And I got back to my desk. I looked at the guy across from me in our cubicle block, and he looked like his dog had just died by the time I got back to my desk. And I'm like, hey, what's going on, bro? Just listen. You got to listen to it. It's horrible. I'm like, okay, and I got about 15 minutes in, and I'm like, so we're going to let the GM, whoever it is that they sign, report directly to a guy that said he was a fan in the same breath and knows zero about day-to-day football ops.
So I got to jump in. So, Badge, you probably don't know this, but I am the ever-optimistic Bears fan of the Undefeated Sports Network here.
No, you're the Matt Nagy fanboy.
I am
Undefeated Sports Network.
Hey, look, pretty soon the Dolphins might be fans of Matt Nagy or not fans of him, depending on how that goes. But no. So here's my thing. Nagy was gone, and I said, man, it has to be Pace too. I don't want Pace having anything to do with this going forward, this reload, this rebuild, whatever you want to call it. I don't want him having his hands anywhere near it. If he brings in a GM, he's just going to bring in somebody who's an extension of himself that he can control, and he's going to run everything anyways. So, but I was afraid, and I said on this show when we were previous down the dial, I told Tarbill and I had our show, and I said, I really will not be surprised if he's promoted to president of football operations. That'll be their way of moving him out of GM, but still keeping him near. So I feel like they thought it was time to let him go. I chose not to watch the Bears press conference. I never watch Bears press conferences. We already know they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Correct. I feel like even when they make the right moves, they don't know how to say what they're trying to do. So you don't have a president of football operations. Let's just say you did. Let's say Badge was the president of football operations. Tarbill, you're the new GM. You're going to report to Badge. Well, do you know who the president of football operations is going to report to? George.
Yep.
So what difference does it make if the GM, who is going to be the president of football operations and have complete control, what difference does it make if he reports directly to George or if there's a middleman in between? Why does it make everybody – because I've heard this now at least from 500 different Bears fans, like not even blowing out of proportion, seriously legit 500 Bears fans that have told me I'm a complete moron and idiot for thinking that this is okay. I just don't see the big need. If that guy that they bring in is the guy that they trust to run football, then what does it really matter if there's not a middleman for him to report to?
Yeah, I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't think that George should even be involved at all. He said it in the press conference. I'm a fan. But
that's what you get to do when your family owns the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. To me, my thing is if you're going to play that role, then you shouldn't have a say. So to me, then let's say I'm on the board of the Bears organization, and you know the pulse. I mean, I don't even live in Chicago. I'm
Right.
in Chicago once a year, maybe. But
Right.
the Bears, no matter what, are the talk of the city, no matter what. I mean,
Absolutely.
even when the Bulls were good in the 90s, the Bears fans were still rabid. You know, to me, if that's the case, if you're just the fan, get the fuck out of the way. Get out of the way.
Agreed.
There's no point in you sitting in that chair if you're going to take the approach of being a fan. Let the board find a new chairman of the board.
But that's who the board wants in place.
That has that what?
That's who the board wants in place. The board. First off, the problem is that the board is made up of McCaskies.
Yeah, the
well,
the
it's
board.
not. There's some others.
The board is the same
board
people
well.
George is spending Christmas with.
No, I totally understand.
So,
that.
I mean,
I totally understand it.
But
you hear all the time how rumors that the McCaskies are so sick. I was at the Giants game. I was at tailgating in the South lot at Soldier Field, and you could just hear all the people. Oh my gosh, you had the McCaskies. I think they're sick of it. Blah 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 blah. Da, 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 da. You're always here. Now, where that comes from, who knows? I'm sure not that many people know the McCaskies where you're standing in a fucking tailgate at the South lot and somebody, you know what I mean? Like, but, at some point you have to hear, I mean, what are you hanging on to this franchise for, if you're not going to try to win? They're just content with being mediocre. Yeah. And if you're a sports franchise, I don't know how you can live by that.
Is it that they're content to do it, or are they just not good at it? You know, like they own the team. Well,
they're not good at it.
But if I bought the team and I own the Bears and I'm bad at making this a winning franchise, it doesn't mean I'm going to sell the team. I still want to own them, and because I own them, I have the right to be bad at it.
Sure, absolutely you do, but you suck. And you're going to get ridiculed, and you're going to get harassed, and people are going to shit on you. So you have to be able to fucking take that. So when you come out in a press conference and pay condolences to Jeff Dickerson's son to only turn it into how horrible people were for saying fire Nagy at Matt Nagy's son's football game, those are two totally... You should never, ever.
Yes.
That in itself right there to start the press conference that way
agree.
Was fucking bullshit. So that tells you right there George is a fucking dipshit. And I'll say I don't give a shit. I met George in person. He's a fucking dipshit.
Completely
and then for what he did to Olin Kreutz yesterday, to say one of your former players that put on your jersey risked his life for you. Yes, it's his fucking choice. That's true.
But he still did it. He still made the sacrifice.
Right.
His ass should be out of that fucking chair because he doesn't. They don't have a pulse on anything. Dan Wiederer last week put out a series of tweets, and I've referenced it, I think, on every show I've done since. But he was 100% right. They don't have a clue about the fan base in Chicago. The fire Nagy chants, they don't mean anything. They think it's all them. They're clueless. I mean, you could sit there. You look at them on a Zoom call. You look at George and Ted. They fucking look dumb.
Right. Well, I mean, and we saw it from the press conference it started with the press conference last offseason when it was, when have the contracts have been extended? Oh, we're not going to discuss details of the contract. Why? Yeah. Why can't you tell me how many years are left on his damn deal?
There's no inside advantage to that.
Yeah.
No.
I'm surprised that question didn't get asked yesterday. Hey, so, now that they're not here, how many more years are you paying them for?
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
They were paying Matt Nagy around $7 million to be the head coach of the Bears. You can Google it. It's out there.
Well, I mean, that's about average for the NFL. I mean, there's nothing wrong with $7 million. You got guys that are making well more than that in the NFL.
Absolutely.
But the problem I have with it is how many years would you give them?
To me, it's better. It would have been better if George would have fucking just not gotten out of bed yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texted
100%.
Matt and Ryan from bed. Yep, you guys are fired. Thanks for your time.
I mean, so I said this last year after the press conference. I really think it's the same thing. It's almost to the point now where they should just have a press conference where they say, look, we're not going to take any questions. We fired Matt and Ryan. We thank them for everything they did for the Bears, but we decided to go a different direction, and we're going to go get to work. At least then you keep yourself from saying something stupid where now all the talk is about how dumb you are and how you're the one in charge.
Well, and here's the thing with that. From the way that George acted, just his demeanor in the press conference, you could tell he felt uncomfortable, as you said at times, Badge. The Bears have PR and media relations professionals that had to have prepared him for that onslaught of questions. They knew what kind of questions were going to be asked. You know, the people that are managing the media and PR relations for the Bears don't live under rocks. They heard the fire Nagy chants. They heard the cries to fire Pace. They knew he was going to be asked about certain things while he was up there. And as you said, you know, to almost take away from the legacy that was Jeff Dickerson by immediately segueing into Bears fans talking negatively about Nagy at his kid's football game. Get the fuck out of here. Wrong time, completely
absolutely.
wrong context. And I don't care. It comes with the job. I mean, look at that Cubs fan. What was his last name? Bartman. The guy that the ball.
Yeah, Steve Bartman.
That threw the ball back into the field. That man had to move because he was receiving death threats and everything like this.
He knocked the ball out of Moises Alou's glove.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And
I remember
it was the year the Marlins won the World Series.
Totally different situations, obviously, but I'm just saying things go on, especially in a city like Chicago, where the fans are so passionate and so intense that, yes, should they have been chanting fire Nagy at his son's football game? Probably not. According to Matt, he didn't hear it and he signed autographs. So why does it matter?
You know what? Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, you know, you know what you sign up for.
It comes with the territory.
And as a head coach of a football team, you know when your team sucks. You know when you're losing games in a town or a city like a Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, where the fans are known to be that way, that it's going to happen. I mean, look at what happened with Zach LaVine when he was on that All-Star show and they're chanting "Fire Gar Pax." I mean, to the point that he couldn't even speak. He didn't know what to do. You know, the one thing I will say, and not to defend him or anything, but I will say I heard a lot of people, some of the people went into the Turtles Take Facebook and they made some comments. I don't believe that George meant any malice or anything disrespectful towards JD and his legacy when he did it. I truly believe he just doesn't know. He just can't get out. Like you said, he can't get out of his own way. Some people have commented it shows, you know, the lack of character, what an asshole he is. All these. I truly don't believe that he meant any disrespect by doing it. I just truly believe he's that inept at doing what you need to do as the face of the franchise and the CEO. That just goes to show at some point people have to stop defending. You have the wrong guy in place. You have the wrong everything in place.
Well, look at it this way, right? So you look at his tenure, 11 years. It's going to be your third GM, fourth head coach, 2 playoff appearances, no wins. And winning seasons, maybe 1, 2 at the most in that time. Right. I mean, so, you know, at some point, to me, if you have a franchise like this, you have a franchise like the Jacksonville Jaguars or, you know, the Giants the last few years, it's almost like high school football here in New York. You have some smaller schools that, you know, they can't play 11-man football because they don't have enough kids. So they created like a 7-man league or something like that or whatever, right?
Probably 8-man league. They have that.
Yeah, maybe it's 8.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be 8. I can't remember what it was or whatever. But to my point is, you recognize you've got franchises in the NFL who struggle to stay relevant. right?
Mhm.
But then you've always got the same ones that are relevant. Yeah, they may miss a year here or there, but they're quick to rebound.
Absolutely.
Right.
Where, it's certainly not a money issue. All teams have plenty of money. So what is it then? And the crappy part is that it's the team doesn't really, they answer to the NFL, but when it comes to who's in charge, it doesn't really seem like there's a problem unless there's something wrong going on, like what the Washington football team went through. You know what I mean? So it sucks that the NFL can't sit here and go, hey, listen, you guys are a founding franchise. What the hell? What are you doing? If I'm Roger Goodell, why can't I sit here and go, George, you're in way over your fucking head here.
Right.
Either find somebody here to help you figure this out, or maybe you guys really need to think about selling the football team because you're doing nothing but alienating your fan basing, which is hurting our revenue streams and our, things along that line. I highly doubt you'll ever see any money the Bears hurt by any money. I'm going to be an asshole and I'm not going to buy anything Bears just because I feel like being an asshole, but other people don't give a shit. I went to Soldier a couple weeks ago, excuse me, and my buddy and I were talking about next year because the Bears come and play the Giants and the Jets. And I'm like, well, shit, I'll go to those games. You know why? Because the Giants and the Jets are going to get the money. So I'll go.
Right.
But I'm not going to go spend money at Soldier Field or spend money online buying shit that's, I'm just not going to do it. And I don't know. I'm just so fucking bitter this season, man. It really, after what we saw last season, really the last two seasons, like 2018 was like, everybody was on such a high. But even in 2018, that, we as a network were like, yeah, they're winning games, but man, the offense struggles in the red zone. They're, they're still not what they should be, and then 2019 Bears 100, the big event. I went to it, tons of people there, and the sky was the limit. This team was going to dominate, and they fucking didn't, and it's like, okay, well, 2020. All right. We've got another shot, and same thing. So
it was just too repetitive. It was time for a change for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm glad the Bears did move on, but there's so much more that could have transpired this year. Why didn't the Bears fire Matt Nagy with 2 or 3 weeks left in the season so they could start the head coach hunt a little bit early? They were out of contention. There's no reason that they kept him until the end of the season other than they're the Bears and that's what they do. There's no rhyme or reason.
So we figured out at some point during the year, it went from maybe it's not Matt Nagy, blah, 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 to even myself saying, whatever side of the fence you fall on of Matt Nagy debate, it's time for a new voice. It's time for a new direction. It's time for a new leader. Even at that point, I thought the right move was to go through the rest of the year. And the reason I say that is because, so you decide to fire Matt Nagy. What was it? I think week 17, they were allowed to start talking to coaches, potential coaches. Yep. So you fire him after week 16. Who interviews those coaches? Ryan Pace?
Right.
Or are you going to fire Ryan Pace then as well in week 16 and have no GM and no head coach for the rest of the year?
But now you've got George and Ted interviewing your next candidate.
It would have been anyways.
Including a man that...
Nothing changed by waiting to the end of the season except for giving whatever sort of chaotic bullshit storm we've had this year at least a little bit of stability to make it through the rest of the year.
I'll be honest. I thought he should have been fired after the Cleveland game. When they fucking put Justin Fields out there
early
and fucking put his life on the fucking line. Right after that game, he should have been fired.
Yeah.
Right then and there.
I agree.
That's the game plan you put out there for your rookie quarterback in his first fucking start on the road. get off the fucking field.
And if you're going to do it, at least then you have the rest of the season to build.
Yep.
You know, you look at the Raiders. The Raiders fired Gruden, whatever circumstances were there. They fired Gruden with enough time. They rebound, and now they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I do see both sides of that argument. I think realistically for me, I was just so fed up with Matt Nagy. You knew I was ready to move on from him last year, Turtle. You heard me rant about
absolutely.
it.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, I totally support if you're going to get rid of him after Cleveland, you've really got the whole season still ahead of you.
Yep.
So now
I totally agree.
Yeah, they waited. Yep. I feel like they waited too long that now you couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Because what coaches did you see let go early in the season other than Gruden for the emails and then Urban Meyer because he's a fucking dipshit.
Because he kicked his kicker.
Because he's Urban Meyer.
Fucking idiot.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, so no team really was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to take this 2 weeks, get rid of my head coach. You know, even
the Giants, everything you've heard was Joe Judge will return next year. And then all of a sudden, about an hour ago or 2 hours ago, there was a report, Joe Judge is out. It's like, whoa.
Yep.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ian Rappaport tweeted it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I came directly from home to get set up for the show, so I've got Twitter notifications I haven't even gone through yet or anything. It's just been one of those days where I'm not up to date on the latest and greatest, but I did see earlier transitioning that the Bears are going to interview Flores, which is something
the Bears are going to interview the world.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own list. I know.
I'd love to hear your list.
What's that?
I'd love to hear your list.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of transitioning into is get badges at least top 2 or 3.
Right, at least top 3.
Yeah, I know their lists are up to I think like I don't know, 5 or 6 GM, 8, 9 head coach. I have 8 head coach possibilities, 5 GM possibilities. I'll give you my top 2 GM. Rick Smith, I think is a guy who used to be in Houston. His wife, he left the team. His wife was dying of cancer. He left the team to be with her, with their children and whatever. And he's ready to get back in the game. And I feel like this is a guy who still has a tremendous pulse on the NFL. Somebody that Danny Shimon on our network is very, very high on, and is somebody that, you know, just highly respected, and I really think could be a difference maker, you know, here. And then the next guy is Morocco Brown out of Indy. I mean,
those are my 2. Those are my 2. I want one of those, either one of those 2 guys. Yep. I'm ecstatic.
Yeah, and you know, Morocco. I mean, just the mentality that he has. I mean, the guy doesn't stop. You know, and my only thing with him. And kudos to him. I mean, it's not a fault, I don't think, but he has stated that the only way he's leaving Indianapolis is it's got to be perfect for him. And I just don't know if this is going to be perfect for him. He's going to have all the control if he's brought in on the GM, but you know, the people that he has above him, I just unfortunately I don't know that he would see what's happening here and, you know, be open to it. But hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe Bill Polian, you know, has that much pull. When I look to head coach, I won't give you a breakdown on everybody. You know, Jim Harbaugh I had as number 1 on my list. The reason I had him there, I think he's got big balls and he don't give a shit. Then from there, I went Nathaniel Hackett, Brian Daboll, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, Ryan Day, Pep Hamilton, and Matt Eberflus. And then my nose, like guys that I just don't, Sean Payton, because the only way you're getting him is a trade, and I don't want to give up any more fucking draft picks.
Hell no.
Leslie Frazier, I am just not on a Leslie Frazier train. Doug Peterson, get the fuck away. You're part of the Andy Reid tree. Go away. And fucking Eric Bieniemy. No. Absolutely not. Like,
Oh
there
my
is
God.
a name I'll say.
I think
Dave
you're the only
Taub.
other person I've ever talked to that agrees that doesn't want Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah, no, fuck no. No way. Dave Taub would be another name to throw in that head coach spot. I know he probably won't ever get a chance, but he's just a guy who spent so much time with the Bears. I would have thought he would have had an opportunity to be a head coach at some point. And I don't know, maybe he just doesn't have, that great of a game plan. But
I did see that he was added to the list that they've requested interviews with a little while ago.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Good.
The list has gotten quite big. I'll read it real fast, Ryan. I don't want to keep you too long.
No, go right ahead.
But they've requested Leslie Frazier, Doug Peterson, Brian Dable, Jim Harbaugh, Nathaniel Hackett, Todd Bowles, Byron Leftwich, Ryan Day, Gerard Mayo, Josh McDaniels, Greg Roman, Dave Tobe, Brian Flores, who they've actually now since interviewed already. Brian Flores, they were the first ones to interview him. And I did see there was somebody else, I forget who, but there was somebody else that was added not too long ago. So they're definitely going to be an extensive search.
Harbaugh's not on that list yet?
He is on that list.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I must have missed you rolling over him.
Yeah, so he's on there.
Who did you say?
Harbaugh.
Oh, Harbaugh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Brian Flores thing, I'm not opposed to him.
I like him for the same reason that you like Harbaugh. He's got big balls, and he's not going to let anybody tell him how he's going to run the team. Yeah,
I just the whole former Patriot thing, for me, just maybe he'll be the guy that changes it, or McDaniels will be the guy that changes it. McDaniels already had a shot and it didn't work. You know what I mean?
And then blew off Indianapolis after agreeing.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. Former Patriot guys, I'm just leery of, But my sister's a Dolphins fan, and I always said to her, I'm like, man, I really like the coach down there, but I mean that was a firing that nobody saw coming. So
he won 8 of his last 9 games.
Yeah.
It's almost as illogical as the Bears firing Lovie Smith when they went 10-6 and into the playoffs, only to get Mark Trestman, who won like 12 games in 2.5 years. But
he you know what though? Mark Trestman had an offense. I mean, they put up some good numbers, with Marshall and Jeffrey.
Yeah, you're not wrong in that aspect.
Right. But they had no defense. So at the point in time we have an offense, we had no defense.
Right. Can we just get an average or slightly above average offense and defense next season? I would be happy if the Bears were slightly above average. They've been bottom of the league in most offensive categories for so long that even seeing this team be slightly above average would be such a sigh of relief that, if they're in it next year, what I'm trying to say is, if they're a team that's going to fight for a wild card spot next season, I'm content with that because it shows growth regardless of who the coach is.
Yeah, I just want to see consistency, guys. I want to see 4 quarters of football, even if you lose.
Right.
As long as you're competing and you're moving the football and scoring points. I mean, you saw Matt Nagy's offense move the ball.
Right.
I mean, between the 20s, they could move the ball.
Right.
But man, as soon as they got in the red zone, fucking forget about it. They could not execute. And
it was laughable at one point.
It was laughable. And the fact that you have David Montgomery as one and Khalil Herbert. I mean, you have these two guys that are, Montgomery's a little bigger than Herbert. Fucking feed them the rock.
Right.
I mean, I don't care if it's starting the third quarter, you're down by 2 scores, you can still run the football and get yourself back in the game by doing so. Yeah, you're going to need your defense to help you, but that's all this Bears defense did was help Matt Nagy's offense by either forcing teams to punt or getting them the ball back the entire fucking time he was here.
Right. And I think it just goes to show it's just another reason why there was no choice but to move on. It's history repeating itself. It started back in Kansas City. His last game he coached with Kansas City, costing him the Super Bowl by just not giving Kareem Hunt the ball anymore in the second half. The game ends and he says, That's on me. We should have kept going to Kareem. Yeah, you probably should have kept him involved. Then he gets here, and whatever game it was with his famous press conference afterwards, where he said, "Well, I'm not an idiot. I know we need to run the ball more." Well,
no,
apparently you are an idiot because you continue to show us you don't know that you need to run the ball.
My favorite Matt Nagy quote regarding running the football is, "I didn't come here to run the I formation. I don't care what you came here to do. If running the I formation wins fucking football games, you run the I formation until you're blue in the face."
You know what? I was okay with that comment. I thought it showed a little bit of balls, a little bit of guts, a little bit of, swagger. But when you start losing games and you run the ball 7 times and you go, "Well, I'm not an idiot. I know we need to run the football." And then years later, you're still losing games because you don't run the football. So, well, are you sure you're not an idiot? Because you're making it hard to defend that one.
Your personnel choices are atrocious. You're going shotgun empty at 4th and 1, 4th and half a yard. You're running fucking tight end sweep on the goal line with scrubs at the tight end position. I never understood what this man was doing schematically. I mean, and don't get me wrong.
Here's my question, right? So they fired Matt Nagy, right? Now he supposedly had people watching him and telling him
the self-evaluation.
The self-evaluation. Please tell me they're fucking fired because they did nothing to help him at all.
That's what we were talking about last week was what happened to that. Like that had to have stopped at some point because you couldn't tell me that they're right. You can't tell me they're looking at it going, you know what? You guys are looking good. You're right there.
You're this close, Matt. You got this. Run the T formation on the goal line a little bit more. Make Bears fans' heads explode.
It's bad, man. I have a group of buddies that we chat that are Bears fans that actually they have no affiliation with our show or anything. They're just a couple local guys that I know, and we have a group chat, and we changed the name to Fire Matt Nagy, and I put the picture of him from the first game when he's wearing the freaking fedora like he's Papa Bear or whatever.
Yeah,
and finally, we changed it to Matt Nagy fired.
Right.
After yesterday.
That had to feel really good to be able to change that.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some relief there, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
Badge, we definitely appreciate you jumping on with us tonight. A lot of great football talk you've been able to provide here with us. Before we wrap it up, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you and give everybody a little shout out for your show in the Barroom Network?
Yeah, definitely appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Anytime, I love hopping on and, talking ball, any football, basketball, baseball. I mean, I don't really follow baseball as much, but, I have a little bit of a pulse in it, so I know enough. But I always appreciate, an invite to hop on and talk ball. Always check out Barroom Network. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram. I'm sure we have Facebook. At Ryan Badgley 40 is my Twitter handle, and then Barfly Tailgate. We have a Twitter at Barfly Tailgate that we're fairly active on. I think the more we're on social media, the less we're on social media. I mean, just being a Bears fan the last few days and going through all this, it's like, holy crap! I think I needed social media cleanse.
Need a pause,
But follow at Ryan Badgley 40. I think it says Badge of Honor as my name, whatever. It's a segment we do on the show where we, recognize, Bears fans that are, doing something positive in their community or, Bears players that are doing something positive in the community. And it's just fun, man. It wasn't that much fun this year. We're hoping that changes with, some new coaches, new GMs, somebody that can take Justin Fields to that next level and, follow us there.
Oh, absolutely. As always, Badge, we appreciate you jumping on with us. We'll have to chalk it up again soon. It's been fantastic. Be sure to check him and the Barroom guys out. Our guy Salim Sutterwall is over there doing some basketball talk, I believe now, and we'll have to get him to come jump over here and do a quick little show with us like you did tonight. So we appreciate it, Badge. Take care, man. We'll talk.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it having you.
Take care, fellas. Have a good one.
Take care, man. Have a good night. Man, Ryan, what a good football mind he is, man.
I mean, he's just a great sports mind. Like,
absolutely.
He has such a great way of getting his takes across without, pushing them on somebody where he's trying to tell you, oh, your take is wrong. He just tries to tell you his takes. Great knowledge of especially football, but all sports.
Right.
Always a freaking blast having him on. We were lucky enough to have him on down the dial before, and now that we're here making a new home, is just another one of our great friends of the show. It was absolute love having him on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun, man. It's one of those things that, you look at Bears fans as a whole, and obviously us as a podcasting community, making those connections with other guys that are active in the community and, building those relationships just goes for great dialogue all the way around. And, Ryan was a great example. Steve Edwards as well, when he was on with us last week, you get some guys that are football minded like us and knowledgeable at other sports too. But, you really start getting that Bears talk flowing, and we could sit here all night talking Bears
could
without any sort of difficulty. So
we just, Badge, I want to thank you again all the time. You gave us way more time than, than we could have hoped for, but it was great talk, great dialogue, and just, like you said, a great person.
Right on, for sure, man. With that being said, Vince, I think you got something that you maybe want to bring up to the fans here at Turtles Take before we go any further.
So we teased it last week at the end of the show that we had some sponsorship news, and we're finding our home here at Turtles Take on Undefeated Sports Network, and I think I speak for Tarbill and I together as we both say we couldn't be happier to be here and have been welcomed with open arms, and just definitely feels like home. So but it's all about building, right? We're trying to build a brand. We're trying to build a network. So I want to bring somebody on right now to talk, announce the first sponsorship for Turtles Take and the Undefeated Sports Network. And we've reached a deal with Mr. CBD Chicago. So we want to bring on Mark Kanicki.
How's it going, Mark? How are we doing tonight?
I think you're muted, Mark.
Yeah, you are on mute, good sir.
Just kidding.
Don't worry, everybody does that. StreamYard automatically puts you on mute the first time, and every single person comes on muted.
I don't know why I did that. I should know better.
I'm serious. Every single person does it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for having me on. And I just wanted to say I'm a proud sponsor of Turtles Take and what you guys are doing. I was enjoying the show while I was waiting backstage.
Oh, we appreciate it. Thank you for obviously everything you're going to be doing here for Turtles Take and the Undefeated Sports Network moving forward. Good to hear some feedback. Glad that you're enjoying the show while you were in the green room. As always, so you wanna tell everybody what Mr. CBD Chicago is about, Mark? And
sure, absolutely. It's very appropriate that you mentioned the green room, because that's where I would be. We're kind of, we are the wholesale club of cannabis here at MrCBDChicago.com for everything CBD and all THC derived hemp products. So you can find hemp derived THC products, CBD. We have over 700 products online, and it falls into pain management, wellness, and recreation for those of you who are just wanting to enjoy, life.
And those you trying to get to them Bears games.
Oh, yeah, you're going to need a lot of MrCBDChicago.com in order to get through these Bears games. Again, it's going to be a better offseason when you work with us. We're a wholesale club, so a lot of people like to not only take care of themselves, but their pets through us as well. And we work with a lot of ex-athletes for pain management. And like you said, man, as far as anxiety and curbing some stress, Mr. CBD Chicago is the best way to do that as far as the Bears are concerned. But you want to know what? You can also enjoy a lot of Chicago Bulls right now and be a lot happier with a lot of our hemp-derived THC products too.
Hell yeah.
Beverages, topicals, tinctures, smokables, it's all there. I mean, if you appreciate the cannabis plant, everything the cannabis plant has to offer, we have on our site.
Well, that sounds great, Mark. We're pleased and happy to have you as part of the team and this partnership that we're going to have going forward. I couldn't think of a better way to get your name out there and get it announced than have you on yourself.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And you know what? I got to make sure that we guys get you some Trust Your Dopeness gear.
Yeah.
Our logo is trying to be the Jumpman of cannabis. That's what it's all about. The wink, wink. You use it, I use it, we all use it. You know, and I know.
Yeah, we look forward to it. Look forward to the gear and some of those great drinks that you got going in the stores and the nightclubs and everything. And
yeah, you can find us at Pete's Fresh Market, Caputo's Drink Nightclub, and now Two Chefs Restaurant in Bensenville. So we're always expanding, and you can look up our dealer locator on our website as well.
Very cool, very cool. Well, we'll have to have you back on here down the road. We just wanted to have you on to announce this to our viewers and watchers, and let them know. You want to let them know where they can find you at?
Yeah, go to MrCBDChicago.com, and when you check out, you can use Turtles Take 10 for 10% off on your next purchase.
Awesome.
Right on. Absolutely awesome. Mark, we appreciate you jumping on with us, and we'll talk real soon, man. Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys. Have a good show.
Thank you. Take care, brother. Big
All
time
good things,
news
my boy.
coming out. Right. Big time news coming out. We got a sponsor lined up. We had our guy Badge on tonight. It's been fun, man. It's been a great show. And you know what? It's no matter how many times we do this, obviously weekly or, last night I was on with Angelo for the pop-up sport court. I could never get tired of talking Bears football. I could never get tired of talking.
No, it feels like a new show every time
with you. Yeah. And, as happy as I was to talk with Angelo last night, I got right back here in my groove with you talking about the Bears, talking about the Bulls. And before we go, can I have one final last time I ever do it rant about Matt Nagy?
You know what? I can't think of a better way to close the show.
So as many of you who have followed Turtles Take for some time know, I was very against Matt Nagy, even when Mitchell Trubisky was the quarterback in Chicago. I pointed the finger at Nagy. I said he was the problem. I said that Mitchell Trubisky was not the issue. I think that was proven. I think Trubisky is still not a starting quarterback, but I think that Matt Nagy being the issue was proven this season.
You had to wait to the end of the show to piss me off, huh? You could have let I opened it up. You could have taken your shots at Matt Nagy, a wide open target. You had to bring Mitchell Trubisky into this.
No, I'm done with that. Fuck, I don't ever want to speak.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
we got that.
Okay,
we'll get that out of the way. But with that being said, I mean, Matt Nagy did not adapt a plan around Andy Dalton. He threw Andy Dalton into the same offense that he played with Nick Foles and that other guy I'm not going to mention anymore. And then Justin Fields, man, Badge talked about it in the Cleveland game. You throw him out there with the same cookie cutter bullshit of an offense and let him get destroyed. Let him get sacked 7 times. Now, don't get me wrong. Fields did not have a perfect rookie season. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that he is 100% the future. The signs are there, and the future is looking good, but we need to see him develop, and we need to see him next season under new coaching before it's too early to make a ruling on Justin Fields.
I would honestly love to see whether – I don't think it's as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, if they get like a leader-type head coach or a defensive head coach, I'd love to see Pep Hamilton connected to Justin Fields. Pep has done a great job with Justin Herbert and
absolutely.
And some of the quarterbacks in this league. And, we saw in Houston this year, we saw the strides that Mills took this year, Davis Mills took. The end of the second half of the season, he looked really good. He looked like he's got his name up there as the second best quarterback in his draft so far. So I'd really like to see what an offense built or led by Pep Hamilton looks like.
Yeah, I do like that take. It's an interesting one. His name doesn't get brought up enough. But with that being said, in my last time ever in my life ranting about Matt Nagy, I just have to say this guy's a fucking clown. I am so happy that he's out of Chicago. I'm so happy that I don't got to worry about him coaching anywhere else next season because Adam Schefter did not really tweet out that he was interviewing in Miami, Vince. You got fooled.
Hey, it had the check mark.
It did have the check mark, but the last name was spelled Scheftker. But
yeah, it's been pointed out since then.
No, but
a couple of our viewers sent it to me just so that I saw it.
In all reality, I do think it's it was clearly time for the Bears to move on from Matt Nagy, and I do think he'll get another shot somewhere. I don't think it'll be next season. I think he's a guy that'll take a year or two off, retool, so to speak, and then possibly come back. What do you think? You think he'll be coaching next season?
I think he'll probably take a year off. It's always hard to tell, what somebody wants to do when you put the work in, and let this be said. Obviously I'm the other. We're the yin and yang on here, and you just ying
Right.
just to let me yang. But despite everything that everybody feels, everything that went into the decision to move on from Matt Nagy, he did obviously put in a lot of hard work, and the grind is real when you're in the NFL. So I think it's natural to take a year off when you finally have that break where you don't need to get back to that grind.
Okay,
right
stop. I'm cutting you off right there. This is what Matt Nagy did. Yeah, we had a good week at practice. We had another really strong week at practice. I'm going to have to reevaluate the tape.
Yeah, but
I collaborate with Ryan Pace.
Yeah, but you're talking about interviews. Like, regardless who you are, whether you're the best coach in the NFL or the worst coach in the NFL, you're still watching film. You're still putting in the hours. So to answer your question about what he does, I think the natural thing is to take a year off and kind of recharge the batteries a little bit. And then maybe he comes back as a coordinator. Maybe he doesn't ever get another shot at head coach. That being said, if you look at the overall record for his time with the Bears, that's definitely in his favor versus a lot of coaches that get fired as their first time as a head coach, that they usually have a losing record and a horribly losing record. Whereas Matt Nagy has pretty close to 500, if I'm not mistaken.
30-34, I believe.
I thought it was 34-31.
Oh, maybe it is the other way around. Yeah, I believe you're right. You're right.
But right around 500, which obviously that's not what you're looking for. But again, a lot of head coaches get fired after their first job. They have that 2-14, 2-28 type record.
Right.
So,
that Mark Trestman type record. So before we close out the show, there's one thing I want to say. I'm on board with interviewing Jim Harbaugh. I like the guy. Do I think it's going to happen? More than likely not. There's one single name in the entire NFL that I want the Bears to stay away from. And I hope you're on track with me when I say this. Don't even think about trying to interview Pete Carroll. Do not do it. Do not do it. The man is 72 years old. He chews gum like it's going out of style on the sideline. And he had our guy. He had the ultimate running back on the 1 yard line and did not give him the ball.
You're just all about big time rants tonight.
It's a Matt Nagy move, and I want no part in that, man. I'm hearing the rumors, and I'm getting sick of it. Stay away from Pete Carroll. Stay away from anyone that's older than 60 years old.
I can honestly tell you 2 good things have happened tonight. Badge is on board with no Eric Bieniemy, which I'm a big supporter of. Usually I'm the one who takes bullets for that because everybody wants him. And 2, no Pete Carroll.
Yes. I can't think of a better way to close out the show than that. It was a terrific show, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We had a great time chalking it up with our guy Badge from Barroom.
Hell yeah. Thank you to him for coming on. Thanks to Badge for coming on, giving us so much time. It was a great interview. It's always easy to get caught up and just time runs away as we talk, Bears, football, basketball, like you said, even baseball. We look forward to the next time having him on. I want to thank our sponsor, Mr. CBD Chicago.
Absolutely.
Big things coming here. Love being able to announce that partnership and what that means for the network and the brand. And Tarbill, my boy, thank you. I appreciate you being here, giving us another night, and already looking forward to next week's show, and let's do it again.
Absolutely. With that being said, guys, thank you for tuning in. Again, we appreciate each and every one of you. Be sure to continue to comment and be interactive. We'll be sure to field your questions as we move forward here. Thanks again, guys. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you to our guy Ace for all the help backstage.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week, 7 p.m. Be here.